I don't know if you're ready to answer that, but what do you make of the US November midterm elections? Because and what does it mean for the US markets at this point of time?
As I thought about some of the questions that you asked me, it's very hard to extract from Donald Trump from a lot of the answers because he is a major factor, for better or for worse. Sometimes not better. So I'll try and present that positive component that you've asked. And of course, the midterm elections are a proxy on Donald Trump and his influence. And the midterm elections are all about congressional elections in the U.S. So the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate, which has elections every 2 and 4 years. For who serves as U.S. senators and U.S. representatives. Certainly, there are local elections as well for local offices, city mayors, etc. And what the market wants out of these elections, I guess, analogous to the Middle East without the violence, although we are seeing a rise of political violence in the U.S. as well. What the market loves to see most about U.S. politics is stalemate. In other words, where there is some balance between the two parties, the Republican Party, the Democratic Party. There's almost a third party rising in the U.S., which we can also speak to, which is the Democratic Socialist Party, which is kind of hijacking the Democratic Party. That's kind of turns in the wings that we could spend time talking about. But what the market would like to see is what there is now, where the Senate's controlled by one party, the House is controlled by another, because more often than not, U.S. politicians do things that cause harm rather than do good. Maybe the intentions are good, but the outcomes often are unsettling and create volatility. So the market likes to see generally a stalemate. And that may be where we end up, with a continued sort of status quo, where the Senate's controlled by the Republicans, House by the Democrats. Of course, there's Trump, who certainly from an ego standpoint would love to see complete control of both the House and the Senate by the Republicans. But at the end of the day, Trump has shown that he has little regard for party politics or any aspect of government that he doesn't control. There are 3 branches of government in the U.S. that are supposed to provide checks and balances to each other. Of course, there's the executive branch, which is the presidency. There's the legislative branch, which I just spoke to, the U.S. House and Senate. And then the third branch, which is the judiciary, the Supreme Court. And they're all supposed to provide checks and balances for each other. Donald Trump's presidency has been marked by him saying, I can do what I want. I have executive powers. And in other than extreme cases, I can ignore the other branches of government. And he's been quite effective at that. And because of that, he's been able to do a lot of things very quickly as it relates to his objectives. And he's not just a politician, he's a businessman. So on the positive side, he does understand business. He understands what drives the economy. You've seen that in his big, beautiful bill legislation that was all about very pro-business, lower taxes, lower deregulation, and the market likes that. So aside from sort of the bombastic approach to governance and ignoring centuries-old checks and balances of government, the market says, this guy is at least pro-business, pro-free economy, pro-capitalist, and the market, has shown us with, continuing strength that despite what's happening with the other branches of government have tried to do, that Trump's pro-business policies and the executive powers that he wields. So I think regardless of the outcome of the midterm election, this is a long way of me saying this, that Trump will continue to wield his executive power, which generally is pro-business, pro-capitalist, pro-markets. And I think the markets will, so net, I think the midterm elections will probably have less of an impact on the capital markets than the media might like us to believe. So I think we'll continue on regardless of the outcome.